Hey everyone, thanks for finding the podcast and taking time to listen. Ehnotherpodcast.com is where you can find everything to do with the podcast. Now, I'm on Twitter, Ehnother Podcast. You can just look it up, Ehnother Podcast. Thank you very much, and here is the show. Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast, Ehnother Podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me across the ocean, across the big pond, sitting in his lovely studio in the UK via Skype, Nick Tann.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Where are we?
Well, you're in the future, I think, because you're 1 o'clock p.m. and I'm 8 o'clock a.m., so you'll have to tell me what goes on so I can play the lottery numbers and stuff.
Yeah, we should do that. Or kind of do something with the stock exchange.
Yeah, since you're so much ahead of us. So I wanted to sit down with a bunch of people, just so you know. I know you've listened to the podcast here and there, and I want to interview people. And of course, you're my first overseas interview, but my friends, they're close to me, so they don't really count. I'm not trying to hurt their feelings, but I'm just saying, as an interview goes, you're my first interview on the new podcast.
Ah, I see.
Yeah,
so I should be honoured.
Yeah, yeah, and then you'll go on the Wall of Fame, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, Nick Tann is an independent music artist. Professional. We're going to say professional here, because that's what you're shooting for, right?
I do it for a living.
You do it for a living now. But I want to go back. I want to go back to when there was a young Nick Tann, and what inspired him to be in music when he started to pick up the guitar, or the bass, I think it was, back then.
I've always kind of played guitar. My mum said that my first guitar was a tennis racket, and it sounds really, really cheesy to go, I just played a tennis racket back then. But I kind of did. I had that when I was about 4 or 5, and then I bought a guitar. I didn't buy it, it was bought for me, when I was probably around about, 7 or 8, and my mum bought it from Woolworths. Do you have Woolworths in Canada?
We did have Woolworths back in the day. Now we're overrun by Walmart. We also had another store called Woolco. It's kind of all the same deal. Yeah. But yeah, we did have a Woolworths.
It's kind of like a general, like Woolworths was a kind of a general store where you could buy everything, all that sort of thing. And so that was my first guitar. I can't remember it very clearly, actually. And I had that for a few years, and went through a few different guitars. And I had some lessons where I didn't really learn anything. I learned a couple of chords, and it just got a bit boring. And then I got to learn a guitar. What happened was, for various reasons, I was on my own. I had no friends for a whole summer holiday, which the summer holidays here are about 6 weeks. And when I think I was probably about 12 or something, they go on forever. And I didn't have any friends around me for various reasons. But I did have the book of the Eagles' Hotel California, and through that summer holidays, all I did was learn the whole of that album, because it's got the pictures of the chords in it.
Yes.
And so I just sort of worked out how to do that, and that's what I did. And so I spent that summer playing guitar, and that was kind of my friend, really, then, doing that. And then after that, I met a new group of friends, and then I kind of fell in love with bass. And on my 14th or my 15th birthday, I think it might have been the 15th, my dad bought me a bass guitar, and I started playing that and fell in love with that, and carried on playing guitar still, but kind of focused more on the bass guitar, and carried on playing bass guitar and guitar and blah, 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 joined a few different bands playing bass and things, and that's how I started. That's how I actually started.
That's how you started. That's good. The Hotel California, that was the first album I ever purchased myself. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that album, because it kind of goes into my next question. What was the first album that you, young Nick Tann, bought back in the day?
Right, it was a Queen album, and it's the black one. I don't know if it's Day at the Races or Night at the Opera. It's because there's two albums. One came after the other, and one's a white album and one's a black album. It's the black album I bought, which was I think it's Night at the Opera. Okay. No, it's not. It's Day of the Races. Day of the Races. I walked into the town, and we had a shop called W.H. Smith's that still exists. and I went and bought it on vinyl. And I walked back. Remember, listened to it, and I walked back and played it and loved it and played it to death. And it's still a great album.
Yeah, do you still own it in your collection?
No,
No.
that's gone. That's gone. I've had a few house moves and a few relationships since then. Goodness knows where it is now.
Your first girlfriend took it in the divorce.
Probably. Let's say that.
Yeah. So, as a young artist growing up back then, you mentioned that you played the Eagles over one summer. But who inspired you? Who inspired you to be the musician you are today?
Well, the musician I am today is different from the musician I was when I was a teenager because I didn't really write music. I kind of did. But really, what inspired me was women, girls. Guitars get you girls, man. I mean, that's why we do it. And it's all right being an artist and saying, oh yeah, well, we call ourselves artists now. We're just guitar players. But I did it for the women, really, and it works, and it's worked for years.
Yeah, I should have picked up the guitar. Instead, I picked up the drums. So I'm just the guy who travels around with the musicians, right?
Yeah. We'll kind of let you hang out a little bit.
So now you've branched out, and people don't know. For those that don't know, I should say, you used to be a working man and doing your thing at university, I think it was.
I worked at a college. Yeah, I worked in a department in a college. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you decided to branch out and be your professional musician status. So,
yeah. Well, what happened was I got made redundant. And so I've got some money that's in that's basically going to keep me. If I don't do any work at all, it's going to keep me, keep my wife happy and pay the mortgage and stuff until December. And then after December, then we have to have a sit down and think about what to do. But I'm basically I do what I can. I do whatever I can to make some money. I'm doing a lot of stuff through music. One of the things I'm doing today actually is I need to get some more gigs. I was quite surprised the amount of gigs I could get, the amount of people that would actually pay for me to play. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really nice surprise, and it's given me a lot more confidence and a lot more drive to carry on and do more. So yeah, that's doing that. But also it's teaching guitar, teaching bass, that sort of thing. I'm trying to putting on an event at the moment, which is actually becoming a nightmare, and I don't know if I will put on an event after this because it's just too much hassle. It's too much stress, and I don't want any stress. I like to just go and play and do my thing, and that doesn't. I don't really get nervous before gigs, so I can just go and do a gig and just enjoy it. Whereas this putting on events thing is a bit of a pain in the eye.
So, are you talking about the Nick Tann this thing on productions?
Yeah,
dropping that? Is that because of maybe some guy's bad review? I don't think it was warranted. Like I seen the email that you sent out, and then.
Oh no, that's got nothing to do with it.
Okay.
No, that's something completely different. I thought because of the way I'm doing this event, I thought I'd get a lot more support from people. Publicising it, but unfortunately that's not been the case so far.
And by that, do you mean the artists that you're?
Yeah. I thought the artists would be all over it,
and they're not going for it.
Well, they kind of are, but they've got other things to do, and they're not really seeing the big picture. And I don't know. It's a tricky situation where I live because I moved here about 7-8 years ago down to Southampton, and I didn't grow up down here. I didn't have any friends down here. I haven't got any. I didn't go to school or work down here. I lived down here. I went to work in London and commuted every day. So I don't really have much of a connection with many people down here. So I haven't got that built-in network that you have when you grow up in a place. And trying to break into that and trying to sort of get people on your side, it's I don't know. It's something that I don't think I'm going to bother with after this because, well, it depends. It depends. If when I speak to people face to face, I don't have a problem. But online, it's a bit of a tricky thing. And I do well online, but not really where I live. I do well in America and Canada, things like that. I get good response from people there, and also playing live. I don't really play around my area because it's kind of sewn up in a way, and I find it easier to go somewhere else and play. And that's working better for me.
Yeah, well, I know a couple years ago, people that don't know the old podcast, we had talked back then, and you had mentioned stuff about wanting to do a vinyl project. and all that experience. How did that go for you? Because I've seen the final product, but I didn't see any of the in between. So how did the vinyl project go?
Well, the vinyl project has gone really well, actually. The idea was to go and record an album, produce it on vinyl, but to get people to pre-order it. So it was actually paid for before I went and recorded it. And I got to the stage last year where I had enough money to go and record it, which I did. So I went and recorded it last June, maybe May or June last year, or maybe even March. Anyway, sometime last year. And then when it got to the beginning of this year, I thought, well, I really need to do something with this vinyl project because it's recorded. I've got some money left in the bank to pay for it, but I haven't got enough money to get to record it onto the vinyl. So I decided to cut my losses and record it onto what's called a vinyl effect CD. So really, it's a CD, but it looks like a vinyl record. It's black on the top. It's got grooves on it. It's got a little white label in the middle of it. The sleeve is a gatefold sleeve, like the old-fashioned vinyl gatefold sleeve. And so that's what I did. All the people that contributed to it, all their names are mentioned in the credits, and they all got a free copy. And since then, I've been selling it myself to sort of help keep me above ground and give me a little bit of extra when I'm doing gigs that around the country. I've got about 20 left still, and they're going to keep me going for a while until I can sell them all and buy some more.
So where can people buy that album right now?
Right, well, at the moment, they can buy it from my website at nicktann.co.uk. There's various places on there. They can also buy it at nicktann.bandcamp.com, and it will so they can buy a physical version there, or they can download the whole album. What I've done is I've done this weird thing, and I'm not too sure if it works or not. You can buy individual tracks off the album for, I think it's like 80p, which is, I don't know what that is in Canadian whatevers, but it's not an awful lot. Or you can download the whole album for nothing if you want. You can choose your own price and download the whole album for well, if you want to do it for nothing, you can do it for nothing. But if you want to, pay for it, you can pay for it whatever you like. But individual tracks you have to pay for, or you can download the whole album for nothing if you like. But the physical copies you have to pay for. Yeah. And the physical copies are. I'm not too sure. You'll have to go and have a look. I can't remember what I've got them up as at the moment. But the physical copies will actually cost you money because they cost money to produce. It's a really nice sleeve. It's a good product, So if you like the music, but you're not that bothered about having the actual thing in your hand to look at, and if you're not that bothered about looking at credits and reading about the story, download the whole album for nothing. But if you like all that sort of stuff, then buy it, and I'll send you a copy.
I would say buy it, because that's what we want people to do. We want people to go to your website and buy the music. That's what I would like listeners to do if they hear this and they go check you out. Actually, just pay something for it. Just a little something. Even every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Absolutely. That's my wish, because this podcast is free. Go pay for something that's worth the money to buy.
Yeah.
So buy.
Why not?
Music.
Why not?
Why not? Go do it. So the vinyl album. There's a bunch of tracks on it, and I don't even think this one is actually on that track, but last week on your podcast, Is This Thing On?, I heard one of your new songs. I think you actually recorded it on your holiday, and I know it has the words "I'm coming home" in it.
Coming home, yeah.
Yeah, that song right there has to be one of my favorite songs of yours right at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, I really liked it, and I hadn't told you that yet, because I knew I was talking to you this week. And I just listened to it before you came on. I was like, this is a really good song. So you were on holiday when you recorded that, right?
Not when I recorded it. I was actually here when I recorded it.
Well, I recorded that. You wrote it.
When I started writing it. Yeah, I bought a new guitar. I just come back from America, and I just bought this brand new guitar. Well, it's a second-hand guitar, used guitar, but I was playing around with it in the hotel room and just sort of messing about and noodling, as guitarists call it. And just come across this little song and, did it. And then I've had a few gigs to do recently. So I thought I'd better write some words for this. So I did. And that's what it was called.
Yeah. How do you feel about performing it on the podcast? I know I didn't talk to you about that, but do you feel...
What, now?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Hang on. Keep talking.
Okay. What I like, what I like about Nick is I can see everything in the back of his. I have him on video Skype right now, and I can see all his guitars. And one of the things that he does have, and he did put in a song in the past year, was actually a sitar. And last time I talked to him, I said, "You got to do something with that because it would be a neat little instrument to put in there." And I think one of the other instruments that he has in there is a proper stand-up bass that he has in there. Is that correct?
Oh, this one.
Yeah. So he has the big acoustic bass for those, just like in the orchestras and
That's right.
and proper jazz bands. That's what we used to use in our senior jazz band back in the day.
Oh yeah, I still play it. Rain on my windscreen, sun on my back. Nothing left in this place can ever hold me back. I'm coming home. Coming home. If the sun in my morning, if the moon in my night. When I get home at 3 a.m., it's such a beautiful sight. I'm coming home. Coming home. 'Cause I'm not gonna run. I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide. I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop. I can hear you crying for me. Coming home. Coming home. I've had my share of good luck, I've had my share of bad. Of all the things that I've seen, I hate to see you sad. I'm coming home. Coming home. When everything gets crazy, when everything turns black, nothing's gonna stop me. Ain't nothing's ever gonna hold me back. I'm coming home. Coming home. 'Cause I'm not gonna run. I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide. I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop. I can hear you crying. Coming home. Coming home. Da 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 da. Nothing's ever gonna hold me back. I'm coming home. I'm not gonna run. I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide. I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop. I can see you crying. 'Cause I'm not gonna run. I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide. I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop. I can hear you crying. Home. Coming home. Coming home.
Sounded great. I don't know what you were worried about. It sounded awesome.
Oh, no, it's all right. I'll tell you what it is. It's because I've just written the words. It takes a while for the words to permeate my brain.
Yeah.
And I was expecting to see the words popping up on the screen, and they didn't. And if I hadn't had the words, I'd have got my head around the fact what the words are, but they didn't, and it just kind of messed me up.
Yeah, that's all right. So what is the official title of that song? Because
I think "Coming Home."
I just wanted to make sure, because it could be "I'm Coming Home" or whatever else.
I think "Coming Home" will be all right.
Yeah. Have you put it out there proper yet? Like
No,
online?
I haven't recorded it properly. I only finished writing it last week.
Yeah. I like that word "proper" because I communicate with you and other people who live in the great land of the British, the UK, and
The motherland.
Yeah, they use the word "proper," and I'm like, I like that, proper.
Proper.
So I started using it around here, and then people look at me funny.
You mean they didn't before?
No, no. I have a friend that I work with where I work, and he's from the UK. And I've shown him your podcast. I don't know if he listens to it. I'll have to talk to him and find out, because he's only here temporary, and then he's going back to the UK with his wife in the next couple months. So anyhow, I was telling him one day about who's the guy that does all those movies there. He just did the how come I can't remember now? He did Borat and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, and the first one he did, the one with the rapper persona there, I forget what that guy's name is, Ali G.
Ali G, yeah.
Yeah, and I was watching the movie on Netflix, because I'd never seen it before, and I was actually able to pick up all these terms like bellend and all this stuff that made me laugh, because
actually that film was shot near where I grew up.
Oh yeah,
it's actually all shot in a place called Staines and that area. Now I used to they're the places I used to go when I was a kid.
Oh, so like that recreation hall, you actually used to go there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's funny that I brought that up. I didn't have no idea that's where you grew up.
Yeah.
So Ali G could be your group leader.
He could be. Yeah, we're under.
I don't think, like, not any of the terms that he used in that movie I wouldn't have got if it wasn't for people like you and Roz and other people that explained to me what these terms are, because you don't get them here. So
no, well, pucker's another good one. I quite like pucker.
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 What is that?
Pucka. That's another word for proper, real,
okay,
genuine.
Yeah.
It's pucker. I think it's actually an Indian word. It might be a Hindi word, because there's a few Indian words that are used in this country that are sort of hangovers from when we used to have an empire and the Raj and things like that. And so there's various words, things like pajamas and bungalow. They're Indian words.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, pucker's one of them.
Well, at least do you guys use the word toque for winter hats? You know those?
Nope.
No? What do you call them?
We don't have winter hats.
You don't have winter hats? You don't get... That's the one thing about the UK, just getting off topic, which is what I like to do most. The UK is further north than where I live, and I don't understand how you get no snow. It's unfair.
It's global warming.
Yeah.
Global warming. That's the answer, James. It's not a fantasy. It's a reality.
Yeah. Well, currently there's no snow here, but it's coming. I can feel it.
Well, the thing is where Canada has got it over the UK is that every year in Canada it gets cold, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does get cold.
Yeah, it's called winter. Yeah, it kind of does here, but it catches people off guard, and people are still walking around even in the depths of winter. Especially young girls coming out of nightclubs or going to nightclubs in the evening. They'll just be wearing a skimpy dress or something like that, nothing on top, and they'll be walking the streets. Freezing cold, snow on the ground, frost on the car, mist on the breath, and they'll be walking around in a mini skirt and a boob tube.
Perfect.
Going, it's cold, isn't it? You go, yeah, it's winter.
Yeah. Well, I tend to, if you know anything about Canada, you went to the West Coast, and Vancouver is sort of like the weather that you get there in the UK. It has to do with the jet stream, I know that. So it has nothing to do with north or south. It's actually the jet stream. So you're fairly lucky where you live.
That's what Dusty said anyway. So, and he must be right.
Yeah. So I know back then you started out and you said women inspired you then. So do they still inspire you now, or who inspires you now?
Of course they do. Money inspires me now.
Money, yeah.
Money is the kind of thing that, because it's an interesting thing, because I could learn a bunch of covers. I could go and do a whole gig where I just play cover songs, and earn more money. But for me, that's not what it's about. So actually, to say money inspires me now is not really, is a kind of a crass comment, really. But I just liked I love it more now over the last couple of months playing for money than I have done playing for no money. And it's not just the money, although I have said money a lot. The fact that somebody is willing to pay money to listen to me play my songs, that's a very personal, very, very personal thing. Listening to me, if someone wanted to pay for me to come and play Oasis covers and Beatles tunes and etc. for like a couple of hours, there are millions of people doing that. Literally millions of people, and I'd be one of millions going in there, and they go, I'd be judged on how well I sounded like the original. And so that's kind of okay. And it's not that I've got friends of mine who do that for a living every weekend, or it's their job, or they go and play in clubs and they just play covers, and that's fine. But it's not for me. So to actually get paid for singing something that I wrote is quite a thing, and it's not about an ego trip. It gives you a real sense of confidence, and that confidence kind of inspires me to carry on and get other gigs. And thinking now, I'm looking at playing abroad in Europe, because we're quite lucky here. If I wanted to go and play in Europe, anywhere in Europe, I could just go and play. I'd have no problem at all. But going to when I went to the States, I was hoping to play over there, but the restrictions on playing over there are just prohibitive. I couldn't go and play over there.
Why couldn't you play over there?
Because you're not allowed to earn any money. I can't go over there and play and earn money for gigs, not without a special visa and a special an arrangement that each venue has to pay $300 to book you. It's just like any other job, really. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't just go over to America or Canada. Canada might be slightly different because you're still part of the empire, aren't you, or Commonwealth?
Yeah, so I was just wondering the same thing. I'm gonna check into that later just to see for you, because
interesting.
It would be
as far as America goes. You can't just go over there and say, "Hi, I'm a bricklayer," or "I'm a builder," or whatever. I want to come and do some work over here for a little while. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And being a musician, it's just the same as being a bricklayer, really.
Yeah, they're kind of really restrictive on what you can do there. It's they kind of control the world, so I guess you have to follow their rules.
Well, they kind of don't control the world, James. They like to try and convince people that they do, but when you're out of America, their influence gets less and less and less, especially if you're French.
Yeah, I just like to say that so they continue to think that Canadians think that we let them control the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know who controls the world.
We do.
Yeah, women.
Women. The only thing is, women don't realise they control the world.
Yeah, they do. They know it. The one thing that I noticed about your music is it seems to be ballads, and I know a lot of your stuff is, like you said, is influenced by a woman. Is that how you really feel? Is this like all ballady all the time, or?
I suppose it depends. I write songs about things that happen to me. I write songs about my songs are about something. There's a story behind it. There's always a story behind everything that I write, and so a lot of my songs not necessarily about women per se, but more about relationships, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because they're the things that I think that probably influenced me more than anything else. I kind of wish I could write more political stuff, because I'm kind of political. So I like my wife has said to me before, she's like, you believe all this stuff. Why don't you write about political stuff instead of writing about relationships all the time? And I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I will write about that. I'm not sure. But if I do write about it, it will be. It won't be that obvious, but it's about politics, because I think that can turn a lot of people off. And I like to make, although my songs are about particular relationships that happened to me or other people, etc., you wouldn't necessarily guess this exactly what happened. You wouldn't actually be able to work out exactly what had happened to inspire that story. And hopefully, the idea is that you might listen to it and go, "Oh, I've had a relationship like that, or I've had feelings like that." Or in some of the rockier songs, I might have had a one night stand like that.
Yeah. Well, I know, like that song, "I'm Coming Home." I know a couple years ago I used to work outside of town, and I'd have to travel back and forth. And I think if I listened to that song back then, if I was coming home, it might make me cry. Just like, because it has a really good emotional feel to it, which I really like about it. It's deep, and I honestly swear to God, if I was driving home and it was playing in my vehicle, and I was coming back or coming home to my wife, and I was listening to that song, I'd probably cry.
Good.
Yeah, I hope that's what you're shooting for.
Yeah, well, any kind of reaction's good. I'm a bit weird about saying this. I've been very lucky recently, because I've sent a lot of stuff off to be reviewed by various websites and various magazines, and they've all come back positive. I'm kind of waiting for someone to come back and go, "This is shit."
But
who's this guy?
Is that what you're hoping for? Because I've known you for a little bit now, as much as somebody could know you over the internet, of course, and listen to a lot of your stuff, and it all is good. So are you the one person that's crazy that says it's not good? I don't think it really matters, but are you hoping for that to be like a kick in the pants for you, or?
I don't know. Maybe. I've heard other people say this, and I've heard kind of actresses and other musicians and artists say this, is that they kind of like, actually even my wife says this in her job, that everyone's kind of waiting for someone to come along and go, "Yeah, actually you're really not very good at this, and this is your dark secret is someone's going to come and tell you and say it's all over. We're outing you. We're not going to let you continue, because we've actually realised that you are awful, and you've just been chancing it." And there's lots of musicians, lots of actors, etc., have often said that they just always feel that they're chancing it, that someone's going to come and discover them. And it's like not discover them in a positive way, but discover them and go, yeah, we know you're no good, and it's time to go.
Yeah. So there is one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that was a couple months ago. I think it's still off the table now, and that's The Voice UK.
Yeah.
And you were going to originally do that.
Yeah.
And then you decided not to. Were you afraid to do it?
Oh, no.
No?
No, not at all. No, not at all. What happened was, a few months ago, I got scouted. I got an email from somebody that I know, and they said that they were working as a scout for The Voice. That's right, folks. It's not all as it seems. And
yeah, the one thing I had is like, when I first saw the news, I was so excited because I see the show here and I see how well it's put out there and how well it's done. And you see the 4 chairs. I'm assuming that it would work the exact same way. Their backs are to you. They hear you sing.
Yeah,
and there are the occasional ones where they don't press that button, and you're like, "Why didn't you press the button?" And it's like,
yeah, why is that, I wonder?
I don't know. Like they are good. I'm not saying that they're terrible, because everybody that they put on the show has done the process and has gone through the interviews and all that stuff.
Well, there are different processes that different people go through.
Yeah.
And let me tell you. All right. So I got this phone call, and they said, like, we want, what's happening this year with The Voice is they're concentrating on people that write their own material. And I know what you're like. I know how, what you do. So what you need to do is to go to the website and apply and put down tell me when you've applied, and I will go through the applications and mark your application, my application, to say that it's been scouted and it'll get fast tracked. And I did that, and I went through that process. Now, at the same time, my daughter, who also sings, told me that she was going to go for The Voice this year, and she was going for auditions. So I said, "Oh, okay, fair enough." And she went the week before my audition was supposed to be, and she had to go to Cardiff, which is in Wales, believe it or not. Now, Wales is a slightly different country to England, but I won't go into that now. And she went and she spent the whole day there because it's one of those things. And the night before my audition, I did a gig about 2 hours away, and I was staying the night with a friend of mine in this place. And the audition the next day was in London, and the audition started at 8. And one of the things it said on the sheet was that, you know, auditions they start at 8, and you could be there all day. And I thought, shit, I'm going to be in Wales, not Wales. I'm going to be in the middle of the countryside. I'm going to stay with my friends, and I've got to come back, and I've got to drive all the way to London to hang about all day in this audition. And I thought to myself, do I really want to do this? Is this what I really want? And I thought, well, what would happen if I actually got through? And then my thought process was like, well, I'd do this and I'd do that. And there was no mention of me playing my own song, which was kind of my inspiration in the beginning, because I thought, well, if I get to do the audition and I can audition doing my own song, then at least I'll get some money from the PRS, which is the Collecting Society. So I'll get some money for that, for it being on a major network, and I'll probably get a few £100 just for having my song put on the TV. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, you know, you need to bring a backing track as well. I thought, backing track? Or, you know, I was just thinking, this sounds an awful lot of effort. Is it worth the effort? And I just started analysing it, working out if I wanted to do it. And I thought, you know what? I don't want it. Because even if I won, it wouldn't be like, whoopee. It'd be like, oh yeah, you're that guy off that Voice. And it would be in an area that I don't want to be in anyway. I don't want to be in that world. I want to be in a world where I'm out playing all the time in front of real people that are there because they want to see me. Or do you know what I mean? It's like I didn't want it to be all that falseness, because what happens is that, you know, oh yeah, you're that guy that won the Voice 4 years ago, and you're still knocking the same old rubbish out. And I thought, I'm not that. That's not me at all. So I decided not to do it, and so I emailed them. It's the BBC, and I emailed the scout and said, look, I've had to think about it, and I don't want to do it. But the day before, which was weird, the day before my actual audition, the BBC phoned me up and said, look, we want to make sure that you're going to come and do this thing. I went, oh, actually, no, I've sent you an email saying I can't do it. And I said, oh, no, why don't you want to do it? And I kind of went through the whole story, and they said, oh, yeah, but the thing is if you're scouted, as you've been scouted, you're only going to be here for like 2 hours maximum. We fast track you through. And that kind of made me think, yeah, okay, that's kind of... It's a bit like the Groucho Club. If you know about the Groucho Club, there's a Groucho Club in the UK, a special kind of private club. And the thing about the Groucho Club is it comes from a quote by Groucho Marx that said, I'd never want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member. And it's a bit like that. I wouldn't want to be part of this Voice thing because they'd have me. And, you know, I don't know, maybe that's not a very good explanation. But I just thought, nah, it's not for me, and I'll carry on. And I thought, well, if I'm good enough, if some people think I'm good enough to do that, to be on that show, then maybe I'm good enough to go out and do a gig somewhere else. And so it was a bit more of a sort of a confidence booster, just to think that someone thought I was worth it.
Yeah. So, are you, like, I don't know about in the UK, but I know in Canada, people, or in the US, most of the US, because people in Canada watch all those shows, and then they seem to fall off after a couple of years, and they're not there anymore. You don't hear about them anymore. Like 2 seasons ago on American Idol, I don't know who won. I remember watching it, but I know that they don't have anything really. Is there a stigma in the UK about kind of like you're on a show, it gets produced, you're on BBC One maybe, and then boom, you've won, and then okay, you're that guy?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of does, but the thing is when you watch those shows, you're kind of performing in a bubble. a bubble of a reality that's been created by that show. And you said earlier on that they have people on The Voice who are good, and the thing is that if your experience of listening to music is what the TV show you and what the radio play you, then you're kind of limited. I go out and I play in lots of venues, and I listen to loads of independent music all the time. So I know the quality of people that are out there, just in my hometown. That's where I live, around in Southampton. And there are people in Southampton that I saw this weekend that are better than most of the people in The Voice. So you listen to The Voice, you go, oh yeah, well he's quite good. Yeah, but he's only good in comparison to the other guy or the other girl that was in that show earlier on. In the reality, in the world outside your house, where you go and, you know, where you actually get out off your arse into the community, is brilliant. So you listen to that, then your experience grows, and so you're listening to people in a greater context as opposed to listening to some guy screaming his way through something, or some girl, and yet another Adele sounded like, yet another. I can't think of any of the popular people, but they're just copying them, and they're just another clone of another thing that you've heard on TV that's successful. So it's a very small world. So once you've won that program, so you're really big or really famous in that little The Voice or American Idol, once you're just in that, it doesn't break through into anywhere else, because everybody else says, yeah, okay, so you're American Idol, so what? Yeah, well, American Idol. Yeah, when you're in that studio, when you're in that situation, when you're in that bubble, you're the big cheese. But when you get out into the real world where everybody else is, they're like, oh yeah, it's that program. I haven't really seen American Idol. And can you imagine somebody winning American Idol and then just walking outside? Is there a Canadian Idol?
There used to be, and then nobody watched it, so they canceled it.
Okay, but can you imagine somebody who wins American Idol going out the next day after winning the final, you know, having all that praise, how fantastic you are, going out into the street and saying, hey, I won American Idol, and someone saying, actually, I've never seen that program, I don't know who you are. Can you imagine that sort of like down-to-earth, how much of a down-to-earth drop you'd have then?
Yeah. Well, the thing that happens here, and this is... it's really amazing. There's probably, I off the top of my head, I can think of 2 American Idol winners that have won that have amazing careers: Carrie Underwood and Kelly Pickler. Everyone else, or whatever her name is, everyone else has fallen off. But it's the ones.
That's a great name.
It's the ones that have like the 4th place finish, as they call it, or the 5th place, that come out and they still perform and they still do great and they do better than if they're linked to those shows. And the thing, you asked if there's a Canadian Idol, there used to be, but there's no real talent. And when I say that, when you were saying, you know, there's people that sound like them, what happens on The Voice is you have like Christina Aguilera who listens, and when they sound like her, she's pushing the button right away. Or there's Blake Shelton, he's a country guy, and he pushes the button when there's a country guy, and you can almost write it. And then there's a couple of people who are really good singers that are really unique, and they all push the button, and they're fighting over them. But at the end of the day, they don't know what to do with them once they have them, because they're not fitting into a can.
That's right.
So that's what's happening. And in Canada, you were talking about, like, you could go out and do and play other people's music and stuff like that. But in Canada, what I've noticed is, especially like right down the street from me, there's a bar, and they play. There's lots of artists that play there, but it's all music from other people. They've never played anyone that is unique, that is written their own stuff. And a couple of years ago, I was surprised because you had me do a project, and I used to go and find artists in Canada for the podcast, for your podcast, and I would talk about them, and I would say, here's their songs and stuff like that. And I was surprised there's artists in my own city that do this kind of stuff that are really, really good, and they don't play anywhere here in town. They have to leave town to go play because everyone is doing what, you know, like a tribute band.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely.
And that's the hard part. And then like you said, if they don't fit into that genre or that can, then you're kind of not pushed that button.
No.
Yeah. No. So I was really happy when you had the audition, and then when you kind of said you weren't going to do it, I was a little disappointed. But I understand where you're coming from, because when you really do think about it and you see it, you're just better than that can that they would try to put you in. Yeah. So.
Well, being a musician is an awful lot like doing lots of other, a lot of other professions. You can link it to, like, if you did a program that looked for the best bricklayer, and you won best bricklayer in America or Canada because of what you'd done. If you hadn't watched that program, you wouldn't know people wouldn't know what a great bricklayer you are.
Yeah, that is true. So
I could be spouting rubbish now, by the way.
Nah, you're not. It all makes sense. So I want you to take a few minutes and pimp yourself, because that obviously is what I want people when they listen to this. They get intrigued and they go to your website and stuff. So just pimp yourself for a few minutes. I know you like doing that too.
Okay, sure. Well, basically, if you want to find anything else about me, then really just go to my website, which is nicktann.co.uk. There's loads of stuff on there. If there's other stuff that I do as well. There's a lot of other bits and pieces that I do, but that's my main thing. But I've also got another website called nicktannmusic.com, which isn't really about my music. It's a long story, but that's basically got is the hub of everything that I do. From building websites for people, giving guitar lessons, everything. So it's nicktann.co.uk and nicktannmusic.com. They're the two main things. So yeah, you can sign up for. I do a newsletter which I send out generally about once a week, which is just sort of a short and sweet thing about things that I'm doing. At the moment, it's about me trying to get my garden ready so I can keep chickens. But there's other bits and pieces involved in that as well. But everything that I do is easy to get in and easy to get out of. But also I've got stuff on Facebook as well, so you can always find me on Facebook and like my page, etc., etc., etc. But like I say, nicktann.co.uk is the main thing.
That's good. Now the podcast, because I do this podcast because I was inspired by you.
Oh, James.
Oh, so nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was inspired by you because you started Is This Thing On about 2 years ago, or 2.5.
Oh, no, about 4 years ago.
4? It's only 100 and some episodes.
Yeah, I know, but the first few episodes, I only did about once every sort of 2 or 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got to, I don't know, maybe about 18 or 20 that I started doing it every week.
Okay. So 4 years ago, the only reason why I said, no, it's got to be 2 is because I had 2 failed ones in the meantime. And this one here, it was kind of like an off-the-top thing. I was like, okay, I want to do my podcast again. This time I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to find all the freebie stuff. I'm going to pay for it and do it. And I was like, I got to come up with a quippy name, and Ehnother podcast was born. And then, so people don't know about my 2 failed ones, but so let's talk about your good one.
Let's not talk about the failed ones.
Yeah, the failed ones were leading up to this good one, because I actually am getting a lot of hits. And
good.
My kids were bugging me yesterday because I said, yeah, in the next weekend I'm interviewing a radio personality from my hometown here. And they're like, well, how did you get them? And I'm like, I sent him a message on Twitter. Like, all I did was ask a question. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, you know what I mean? So if they say no, there's no loss. But if they say yes, hey, you got it,
Yeah, you're winning.
Yeah, so it helps build the network a little bit, because then when I put it online, I say I interviewed G-Rant, that's his name, and I put it out there, then people share it, and that's what I hope. So I've been getting, in the past month, when I started doing this full-time every weekend, I've received almost 300 hits now. So I'm like
Fantastic.
Really happy. Yeah, so you're my inspiration, so I want to talk about Is This Thing On podcast.
Okay, before I tell you about Is This Thing On podcast, what I'd like to do is to suggest a question that you can ask this DJ next week.
Sure.
Like, you could ask him, would he ever play any unsolicited music on his show? For instance, would he play one of my tracks on his show? And if not, why not? Because there might be reasons for it. There might be perfectly legitimate reasons for it.
Sure.
But if he didn't play it, why not? Would there be something, How does he choose his music? Anyway, my podcast. My podcast is This Thing On Podcast. I've been doing it for a few years now, for about 4 years. And what happens is artists from all over the world send me their tracks on MP3s and WAVs, all kinds of things. They email them to me. And out of all the dross, I go through and pick out the songs that I like the best. And I put it out every week. It's getting later and later. I should have done it yesterday. I'm not going to get a chance to do it today. I'm going to lay the tracks out today, and hopefully it'll go live. Live sometime tomorrow, because I've got other things to do today. And I basically it goes out on iTunes. It goes out on a few other internet radio stations like Trax Radio in Australia and a weird site called Radio Dentata, which is a sort of semi-porn site in America, and they put that out once a week. They basically just grab the feed and copy it and send it out as a kind of internet railway internet radio station. And so I do that. It's changed a lot in the last 6 weeks, I think, because I used to do like a track, bit of chat, track, bit of chat, track, bit of chat, and it used to take ages. And what I started to do was I started to listen to my podcast a lot more than I used to. And after a while, I thought, God, this is boring the hell out of me. I wish I'd shut up and just get on and play some music. And so the last 6 weeks or so, that's what I've done. So you'll hear like three or four tracks to start off with, and then I'll come in with a bit of chat, tell you what we've been listening to, maybe some other little bits of stuff, trivia kind of stuff that I've been doing. This week's one's going to be again just music, but tomorrow I've got Paul Lane coming along, who I haven't chatted to for ages from Unplug the Jukebox, so we're going to talk about that. I haven't talked to him for ages and ages and ages, so we're going to go through do a different kind of show tomorrow. In fact, I might make the show go out maybe I'll do it tomorrow night instead of, that's what I'll do tomorrow. I've decided now. And that's what I'll do. I just play music that's sent to me. It goes out on the website, which is isthisthingOnPodcast.com. You can play it off the website itself. I think it's important that if you've got a podcast that's got a website, you have to have a player. So you can send people to the website and go, there you go, it's there. And people can go, oh, right. And they can just click on it, and there it is. If you send them to a website and say, you've got to do this and you've got to download this or you've got to go to iTunes, blah, 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 people are going, yeah, okay, no problem. And they won't bother. But a nice simple little button on the website that you can play it. All the artists get, I take a lot of time to put in hyperlinks on the show notes so people can go to the website and listen, see what they've been listening to, click on the hyperlinks and go to the artist's websites. Also, there's a Facebook page you can go to. It'll have the same information, and I go and make sure that I do all the proper Facebook links on Facebook. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I've been really lucky. I've met a lot of really good people on it. I've got some very good contacts all over the planet, and I get to listen to some fantastic music.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's absolutely one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to. And it's funny that you say you started listening to your podcast now, because I always listen to it. And my wife sort of says it's because I'm full of myself. But I try to tell her I want to listen to it because I want to see if if I want to listen to it, then the listener may want to listen to it, is how I look at it. If I want to go and fast forward, then maybe I'm not doing the job that I want to do to give to everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I listen to my own stuff, not to hear myself speak.
No, you should. No, I think it's an important thing. If you're broadcasting something, it's like if you're a musician and you record a song, you've got to listen to it afterwards. You can't just record it and go, there you go. You have to listen to it because you have to. It's a craft, because you might be doing something wrong, and also it might not have come out. Yeah. I've done that before, and then listened to the podcast and gone, hang on a minute, there's been silence for 5 minutes. Why is that? Why is there silence for 5 minutes? Yeah,
it's funny. My screen froze of where you are, and you're smiling on my screen.
Sped up, didn't it?
Yeah, it hasn't caught up yet. So I think this has been a really good interview, and it's always fun talking to you. And when this comes out, I'll put out all the links to everything that you're doing and give you a good talk up. And then hopefully you can get some more listeners from this side of the pond listening to your stuff and buying your stuff, because that's ultimately what I would like people to do for you.
Thanks very much, James. And I think what's been interesting today is that I'm looking at you. You're clean shaven. There's not a hair on your head, and there's me. I've got hair on my head, and I've got a big beard.
Yeah,
we're like a before and after.
yeah. Well, I'm in Olympic training mode, so I did this because I'm taking up the sport of cannonballing. That's what I tell everyone. I want to get cannonballing onto the Olympic sport. No, I really did it because I'm going bald. So.
Are you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
So
decided to.
my wife cut my hair one day because I was like, "Hey, you used to cut hair before. I don't want to go to the barber. You want to cut my hair?" She's like, "Okay." So she took the clippers and then she started to go. Then she started to go more, and then she's like, "Hey, I got an idea." And then she shaved my head. So this is what happened afterwards.
What does she think of it?
She likes it because every time I say, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna grow my hair back," because it's gonna be cold soon,
Yeah.
She's like, "Wear a fucking toque. It's gonna be fine." I'm like, "You like this, eh?" She goes, "Yeah, it's fine. You don't have to wash your hair. You don't. It's really low maintenance, and you know what? It's fine. It's all good." So she likes it.
There you are. But they say, happy wife, happy life.
That is true. So I want to thank you for sitting down and talking to me, taking time out of your day. I wanted to keep it to an hour, which is right where we are now.
About right, yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to... That song that you sang earlier was near the end, started to cut out, so I'm going to play it at the end so people can hear the nice copy of it. If that's fine
well done.
If that's fine with you.
Hey, mate, sure show. Do what you like.
Yeah, and then I'm going to end the show here, so thank you, Nick, for sitting down and talking with me today.
Thanks, James. Cheers, man.
Okay, so bye, everyone. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Bye.
Oh, no, The rain on my windscreen and the sun on my back. Nothing left in this place can ever hold me back. I'm coming home. Coming home. You're the sun in my morning, you're the moon in my night. When I get in at 3 a.m., you're such a beautiful sight. I'm coming home. Coming home. I'm gonna run, I can hear you calling. I'm not gonna hide, 'cause I can see you falling. I'm not gonna stop, I can hear you crying for me. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I've had my share of good luck, and I've had my share of bad. Of all the things that I've seen, hate to see you sad. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. When everything gets crazy, when everything turns black, nothing's gonna stop me, ain't nothing's ever gonna hold me back. I'm coming home. Coming home. I'm gonna run, 'cause I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide, 'cause I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop, 'cause I can hear you crying. Yeah. I'm coming home, baby. I'm coming home. Never hold me back, I'm coming home. Coming home. Never hold me back, I'm coming home. Coming home. cause I can hear you calling. I ain't gonna hide, cause I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop, cause I can hear you crying, baby. Cause I ain't gonna run, I can hear you calling. I'm not gonna hide, cause I can see you falling. I ain't gonna stop, cause I can hear you crying, baby. Oh yeah. Coming home. Coming home. I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
To see more shit that Nick does, go to nicktannmusic.com.
Thanks for listening, everyone. It means the world to me. It really does. Ehnotherpodcast.com. You can always find everything that you need for the podcast. There's going to be photos, videos. There's a video YouTube channel that will be going up very shortly. More details on that later. It'll probably be called Ehnother Podcast. So follow us on Twitter, ehnotherpodcast.com at Twitter, whatever. Thanks for listening. Bye.